Hi, it's been a while since I filmed anything, and I I think that you can guess why. I believe all people know what's happening right now between Russia and Ukraine, and of course I got affected by this. I believe in such dark times, in such scary and terrifying times, it is very important to stay human in the first place and to be able to feel other people's pain, to be able to feel empathy and compassion. For people who see me for the first time, it is possible because of the YouTube's algorithms. I want to say who I am. I'm a Russian illustrator and artist, and I was born in this country, and I've been living here for my entire life, and my heart is bleeding seeing what is happening right now with my country and with Ukraine. That's just horrifying, and it is very hard to put into words how much hate I feel around right now. This hate is just in the air, and it feels like it is never ending. This never ending flow of hate will never stop because hate kind of generates more hate, and that's how it works. I'm talking not only about hate between Ukrainian and Russian people, which is obvious, taking into account what's happening. I'm so terrified to look at Russian society, right now, to look at what's happening inside of Russian society, because the society is tearing apart too. Different generations can't understand each other, there is so much misunderstanding between people here right now. And yeah, the atmosphere has become very toxic, and I don't know, it is really hard to cope with this atmosphere and to cope with this atmosphere and to cope, of course, with what is happening in Ukraine. I believe the most important thing that I wanted to say that my heart with innocent people in Ukraine who are suffering so much right now, and my heart with all people in Russia who got affected by this, because people right now are suffering on both sides, of course, in a completely different ways, but they aren't. Probably partly people in different countries got affected too somehow, and I don't know. It is a real tragedy for the world, for Russia and Ukraine. It is a real tragedy for me personally. It was very hard to put myself together to film this video, but at some point I realized that I need to do it because I feel need to share my emotions and feelings and some thoughts about what is happening right now. It is a very, very dark and traumatic period, but very transformational type of period for me, and I just wanted to capture it even for myself in my personal history. Accidentally, I came across a phrase, and I think this phrase describes pretty well and pretty accurate what is happening with a lot of people and with me right now. It sounds this way. At first, I couldn't find the words. Then the words were cancelled altogether. Okay, let me explain this phrase a little bit. In the very beginning, when all this started, I felt completely paralyzed and shocked, as many people. And then when I realized that I want to say something, about this, it turned out that I can't. And a lot of very, very frightening changes happened since the beginning of this. These changes are pretty horrifying. And I'm not talking about sanctions. Of course, sanctions has already affected our lives, lives of ordinary Russian people. But I'm not going to focus on sanctions that much. The thing that bothers me so much is the scale of censorship. We lived with censorship for the past 10 years, but the scale of censorship that was reached in the past several weeks is kind of undescribable. Most of independent media were shut down in a couple of days. That means that people don't have access to independent information right now. And of course, a lot of people are affected by propaganda. And yeah, we kind of have a lot of new laws, very, very critical laws that don't allow us to speak out loud and to share what we think about the situation. And I guess that you probably noticed that I don't pronounce the key word because in Russia you don't have kind of right to name this conflict, military conflict, in a way that the whole world, the rest of the world, calls it. And that's the reality we live in now. And I know that for some of you it may sound, like unbelievable or ridiculous, especially if you live in a democratic society, in a democratic country. But believe me, these things can happen, actually can happen in a country with the regime like this. Sometimes I think that I'm a character of Orwell's 1984 book. And it is pretty scary when something similar happens in the reality. And that's the reason why I can't share openly and straightforward my opinion and my position on what's going on. But still, I believe that it is very important to film this video and to share my feelings and the way how I lived through this, the past several months. Because I believe no one can take away from me the right to share my emotions and to share my feelings. I want to be honest with you that I'm scared to death to see what is happening right now in Ukraine, and I'm scared to death to see what's happening in Russia, and I'm afraid to think what is going to happen in the future, because life has become extremely unpredictable and very scary in general. I believe that I woke up to a completely different world 2 times during the past 2 months. The first time, of course, on the 24th of February, when the conflict started. Of course, it was hard to believe that things like this can happen in the 21st century in a civilized world. I truly believed that I live in a civilized world. There, people's life means something, then where people's life are appreciated and valued, And the second time, I woke up to a completely different world when suddenly I realized that there are people who can justify violence. There are people who can watch at things that are happening and can find some reasons for this, you know? Like, what? You know? And yeah, I was shocked by these two things, mostly. And now I want to talk a little bit about Russian society in general, because that's something that is important for me right now. You know, I don't want you to get me wrong. There are a lot of people in Russia who share the same values that I have, you know, who feel empathy, who can't agree with what's happening, who want to do something but can't. And there are a lot of people who can justify what is happening right now. And you know, in the past several weeks, I was trying to understand why. I was trying to understand. I tried to, you know, to make my own, even some sort of investigations. I spoke to so many people. And, you know, here is the conclusion I came with. I might be wrong, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion. It is not only about propaganda, which works very effective, unfortunately, very effective. But it is not only about propaganda. It is about people's mindset in general, you know, especially if we talk about aged people from a different generation. They were brought up, they grew up in a Soviet Union and have very Soviet type of mindset. What does it mean? It means that you can't criticize what government says to you. You can't. I don't know. You're very trustful, and yeah, you tend to trust to every word what the government says to you, and yeah, you're not allowed to criticize. I can say for sure that I'm going through some sort of national crisis right now, you know, because, you know, I know that I'm not in the worst situation right now, but I feel that I don't know where I belong right now. I feel that someone took away my homeland from me. I don't know how to express it or how to put it into words in a more clear way, because probably it is impossible. And you know, I don't feel ashamed of being Russian, because I know that my country and my culture has very, very deep heritage, very interesting history, beautiful people who were through so many horrible things throughout history. And yes, very, very rich and beautiful culture, beautiful language. I don't know, I can't be ashamed for being this, but for sure I had this national crisis. And the reason is that now all Russian people will be associated with aggressiveness, with violence, with all these horrible things. I can say that that's my personal trauma right now. I believe that a lot of conscious people, a lot of adequate people are going through very deep collective trauma right now. It is a deep and collective trauma because stigmatization is a very, very scary thing, you know. I know it might seem that I'm trying to advocate for Russian people right now, and partly maybe I'm trying to do this because I know that all adequate people, all empathetic people, and people who understand what is happening in the reality right now, they are suffering so much. And of course, I don't want to compare these sufferings with sufferings of Ukrainian people. It is impossible to compare these things. I still have home. I still have some sort of peaceful sky over my head. I have my loved ones near me. I still have ability to work, even though it has become much, much more difficult in the current circumstances. But, I'm not okay. I'm not okay, and I don't know when I will be, because life will never be the same because of these events. Yesterday I was standing on my balcony looking at the evening street, and I felt so grateful for being able, just to stay on my balcony in a very peaceful way. I felt so grateful for not being paralyzed by fear of being killed by a random bomb, or yeah, that's so strange that I thought about this, but when things like this happen, you start to perceive very simple things you have in your life in a completely different way. And I truly believe that my life has become a little bit more simpler, the understanding of life has become simpler, and I started appreciating very simple things that I have in my everyday life. I've been working as a freelance illustrator for the past several years of my life. And from the first day when I decided to become an illustrator, I made a decision to write and to speak in English, to be able to reach as many people as I can, to be able to share my experience, to share my art, and I don't know, to feel that I can be a part of the, borderless art community. I believe that's one of the reasons I love art so much, because that's one of the universal languages. People can understand the message you kind of try to share in your art, no matter what language they speak, no matter kind of what culture they belong to. And it has always been very valuable and very important for me as an illustrator. I truly believe that connection, empathy, love, friendship, openness, I don't know, these things makes us stronger, and these things make the world a better place for us all. And recent events show how these connections that people build over years, how fragile these connections are, and that connections can be broken in a very fast way. Of course, it is very hard to observe all the injustice what is happening right now, to see this real hell on earth that Ukrainian people have to go through right now, and at the same time to see how Russian future is destroying, step by step. And I believe that in times like this, it is important to not to turn away from all these things, even though it is very hard. But it is important to keep watching news, to keep following the news, to be informed, to know what is happening there, even though it is much easier to close your eyes and to detach yourself from the news. I believe that it is important not to do it right now. And of course, I was affected pretty hard emotionally and mentally during this period. I am still affected actually, of course, because the situation will probably last for a long time, even though I hope so much it will end as soon as possible. But the consequences will last for a very long time. You know, at some point I started to feel that while being in a very, very bad emotional state at some point, I need to find some reliance, some base within me that I need to save myself mentally somehow. And thankfully, I found this salvation. Thankfully, I found this base within me. I'm glad that I managed to identify in a very clear way my indestructible and deep values. You know, the values that have become much stronger during this period, and the values that made me stronger, you know, and that helped me to know myself a little bit better as a person. I truly believe that nothing in this world can justify violence. People's lives are fragile and valuable. There is nothing more valuable in this world than just life. And that's strange that I have to talk about this, but because I thought that we live in the world there it is obvious, but now people have to talk about this. I want to believe that now it is time for personal responsibility from some perspective. The more kindness, help, empathy we spread, the more chances we can make this future better. You know, ordinary people, by their behavior, by being honest with themselves in the first place. And at least I want to believe in this better future, because what's happening right now is just pure darkness. I hope so much that all of you are safe right now, and I want to wish you to take care of yourselves, to take care of your loved ones, and to appreciate small things in your lives, because that's important.